Hello friends, this is Jack from Choco Anime Recap, and today, I'm going to recap the 2022 action war anime called Vinland Saga, Season 2, Episode 9. But before that, it's my humble request to every person who is watching this, please like this video and share it with your friends. Thorfinn awakens in a meadow, surrounded by a kaleidoscope of flowers and the gentle bleat of a lamb. He realizes that he is freshly shaven and clean. Relief floods over him as he recognizes his village and realizes that his previous experiences, including the death of his father, the numerous battles, and the slavery, were only a terrifying dream. Sitting up, he gazes at the sky with a peaceful sigh. However, in reality, Thorfinn remains unconscious on the ground. Meanwhile, Einar, who is wounded, glares at the farmhands who are attacking him. Despite being equally beaten, he fiercely punches one of them, taunting them to discover whether they are truly inferior to him. The beaten farmhands concede, warning Einar that their behavior could get them into trouble as slaves. However, Einar just grins, pleased with their victory. As Thorfinn lay resting in the dream, Thors approached him and petted the lamb grazing nearby. Thorfinn stood up and began to share the details of his strange dream with Thors, but his words were cut short when Thors interrupted him, sensing the smell of blood. He demanded to know who Thorfinn had killed with his swords. Confused, Thorfinn looked down and saw that he was once again holding the blood-stained short swords he had used as a teenager in Askeladd's band. He dropped them to the ground and Thors reminded him that he had only taught him to use them for self-defense. As Thorfinn calls out for his father, he suddenly stumbles and falls to the ground. Looking back, he sees that a decaying hand is clutched onto his foot. Panic sets in as more and more cadavers emerge from the earth, their cold and lifeless hands grabbing at Thorfinn's body. He cries out for his father's help, but even Thors is not immune to the grasp of the dead. As the chaos ensues, Thors apologizes to Thorfinn and takes responsibility for not teaching him everything he needed to know. He tells Thorfinn that he has no enemies, and that there is no one he must hurt. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gives way, and Thorfinn plummets along with the army of undead. Desperately, he grasps onto the earth's walls, and stares down at the horrific sight of the grotesque soldiers locked in battle. Thorfinn wonders where he is, and if he has somehow entered Valhalla. As Thorfinn clings to the walls of the earth, he observes the macabre spectacle of dead soldiers engaged in battle beneath him, their laughter ringing in his ears. Suddenly, he recognizes one of the warriors as Bjorn. Askeladd sits atop a tall pillar close by, his blood-stained sword resting on his shoulder, and jeers at Thorfinn, asking him if he is still trapped up there, and remarking on how he never learns, always returning to this place. Thorfinn questions if they are in Valhalla, but Askeladd dismisses the notion, saying that it would be much more pleasant, and explaining that this is the real world, the ultimate battlefield, where all the refuse of war ends up. It is the final destination for all warriors, where everyone is an enemy and no one emerges victorious. Askeladd reminds Thorfinn that he used to live there too, until he managed to escape by getting hollowed out, for better or for worse. Askeladd acknowledges that he may not be the best person to say it, being the one who brought Thorfinn to that place, but he comments that Thorfinn is lucky since very few ever get to leave. He then asks Thorfinn what he feels now that being a warrior, which defined his identity, has drained away. Thorfinn responds with regret, admitting that he is still a warrior, and that he returned because of an act of anger towards another person. He continues to lament that he is worthless and stagnant, incapable of growth or progress. As Thorfinn cries, Askeladd interrupts him and suggests he opens his eyes to see what he's missing, saying that he can punish himself all he wants. Thorfinn's eyes flutter open, and he is horrified to see that the cadavers have formed a grotesque tower in their desperate attempts to reach him. He kicks at them, desperately trying to keep them at bay. Askeladd chuckles, calling him heartless for kicking the dead, and suggests that Thorfinn at least hear their curses. He reminds Thorfinn that each of the corpses was someone he killed, but Thorfinn can't remember who they are or when he killed them. He breaks down in tears, apologizing to them for taking their lives. Askeladd smiles, then spots some of the dead soldiers at the base of the tower shooting arrows at Thorfinn. He jumps down and swiftly eliminates the archers before turning back to Thorfinn. Askeladd urges him to stop feeling sorry for himself and start climbing, telling him to let the dead men hang off him and climb with him. He tells Thorfinn that he should take those he killed with him to fight his true battle. With determination, Thorfinn starts climbing, spurred on by Askeladd's words. As he climbs, Askeladd reminds him to become a true warrior, echoing his last words to Thorfinn. Thorfinn slowly regains consciousness, his vision blurry, as he reaches his hand up towards the sky. Memories flood back to him, as he recalls the vivid dream he had while unconscious. He quickly gets up and scans his surroundings, his eyes falling on Einar, who is lying nearby. Thorfinn rushes over to him and asks if he's okay. Einar groggily wakes up and realizes he had fallen asleep after being knocked out. He notices Thorfinn's disoriented state and asks if he's alright. Einar reassures him that they've won the fight, but they are in a tough spot with their damaged crops and their bodies battered from the battle. As they start walking, Einar tells Thorfinn that their situation couldn't get any worse, but they'll likely be punished for their actions. Despite this, Einar chuckles and tells Thorfinn that he feels better knowing he punched one of the farmhands. As Einar tries to console Thorfinn, the latter breaks down in tears and refuses to respond to Einar's inquiries about his condition. After a moment of sobbing, Thorfinn reveals that his tears are not caused by physical pain, but by the realization that he had lived a life of violence, causing him to lose hope and kill people whose names he did not know and who had no grudge against him. He confesses that he punched a man in anger that day, even though he knew it would not solve anything. Thorfinn vows to put an end to violence, never harm another person again, and start afresh by making amends for his past actions. He promises to fight the real battle, and Einar, though he may not fully comprehend the depth of Thorfinn's emotions, agrees to support him in his new path. Kettle stands with Peter, his tunic stained, and the farmhands gather around him, voicing their grievances. Despite the farmhands' anger, Kettle refuses to punish Thorfinn and Einar, arguing that there is usually fault on both sides during fights. The farmhands are outraged by Kettle's response, claiming that they were injured and the slaves must be taught a lesson to prevent them from thinking they're superior. They also worry that their social hierarchy will be jeopardized. Kettle questions their lack of introspection and self-awareness and places an agate button found in the ruined field on the table. To everyone's surprise, Tryggve recognizes the button as his own. Kettle continues to say that it seems the button belonged to the person who committed the crime, and asks Tryggve where his usual code is. He says that if he investigates further, he will have to punish many people, and would rather not do so. He states that wild pigs ruined the field, and that there was no fight, and that is the end of the matter. The farmhands leave, angry at Peter for exposing them, and at Tryggve for messing up. Inside, Peter thanks Kettle, who says it was right and true, and that it would be unjust for even slaves to be punished after having their crops ruined and being attacked. He tells Peter that he has a strong spirit and asks if he does not fear being isolated by the others, but Peter says he's been hardened by his experiences, having once been a slave himself. Einar and Thorfinn are already back in the fields, working with determination. Sverkel watches and tells Thorfinn to let the weight of the hoe carry the momentum, as otherwise he'll tire himself out by handling it so hard. Thorfinn welcomes the advice and keeps working. And this brings the anime to an end. comment for part 10. Don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends. Also, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.